How are you, everyone? Good evening. Good afternoon, sorry.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. I hope that you are all keeping well and doing lots of good work and keeping safe. How are you, Mr. Mohammed, Mr. Sajo?
Hi, how are you?
Hi, how are you? Good. There's a lot of people we have now. I can see. Yes. Yeah. Okay. So I want to make sure that my voice is audible and you can see me now. Okay. Good. I will share with you the slides for today. In this evening, we will start to talk about the auditing external roles and their own scenarios in terms of the anti-money laundering and financial crimes in different sake of challenges. So we have a lots of issues we need to discuss. First of all, I will discuss with you now the scenario for this 10 session. What the main dimension, what the main components, and how can we deliver this presentation or the other presentations. So first of all, we will share with you the screen. Okay. So our workshops for today is talking mainly about the external auditors' roles in the uncertainty environment that we face in post-COVID-19 and of the anti-money laundering, financial crimes. One of the most important financial crimes has been highlighted by the Minister of Economy, and one of the most important monitoring role in the external audits besides the bankers, brokers, real estate, and property agent. How can they fight the fraud challenges and other financial crimes? And the most of them is how can they go anti-money laundering? So the scenarios for this afternoon session is mainly about the external audit's role and uncertainty. This uncertainty creates a gate for, or opened the gate for lots of financial crimes, mainly in the track of anti-money laundering crimes, or the money laundering crimes. We can face a lot of anti-money laundering phenomena and many serious phenomena, which is lights of complementary challenges of the auditing profession. How can they play the role as a policeman, and also as a Spider-Man who can able to spread their net in order to catch any financial fraud and anti-financial crimes. Mainly, this scenario is seeking of three main pillars here, which is the regulatory scenario, standardization, revision, and revisiting the standardization of international financial reporting standard and international accounting standards as well. Professionalism scenario for the auditors, how they do their work in this turbulent environment. There is no information available, uncertainty everywhere, and how can they run their role effectively in order to catch and to attract and keep chasing the financial fraud. My name is Tariq Kandil, assistant professor in Harriet Watt University, Dubai campus, and international trainer in the field of auditing and financial services. I'm doing this job since 2014, and I'm now doing the training and teaching in university, especially in anti-money laundering issues and financial crimes, and the technology of digital transformation Mainly it's about shedding some light on financial artificial intelligence in order to forecast the future challenges and corruption in financial services. So this is me, and I can share with you my profile at the end of this session. But our own three dimension that we need to discuss in this 10 workshop session is mainly about the regulatory environment of the new uncertainty issues, standardization, revises, and professionalism scenario for the external auditors and internal auditors as well. The auditor scenario is mainly about international financial reporting standard, international accounting standards revises, what's the new challenge, what the new changes, and why, what the new rules and regulation in UEE. As you can see here, there is, and also the professionalism issues in anti-money laundering or auditing role, especially in anti-money laundering, which is agile audit, remote audit, and forensic skills, skepticism. This is your professionalism should be shaded lights on these three main perils and three main dimensions. How can you be agile? How can you use your forensic, not only professional skepticism, but also the forensic skepticism and professional doubt. Also, how can you work through remotely working environment? That means we have to shed some light on the digital transformation issue. What about the digital communication, which is mainly to make an engagement, better engagement with your customer? How can you know your customer very well? KYC, knowing your customer or client effectively through using your own digital communication techniques and channels. So this is your professionalism, something regarding to the IT, digital transformation, and artificial intelligence. Agile, remote, and forensic. This is the professionalism issues. Regulation. What the new laws and regulation has been mentioned in the UEE and international world about the fraud, financial crimes, and the new role of auditors as a forensic accountant and a forensic auditors or fraud auditors. What are the new fines and penalties regarding to not having the professional due diligence issues in knowing the customer very well, which is the open new gate for anti-money laundering or money laundering crimes, and what the new revises. So those are three scenarios, which is summarize the regulatory standardization and professionalism. So what the new standardization, what the new revises, what the new changes in the International Financial Reporting Standard. We will discuss all of those issues around 3 or 4 maximum session. Professionalism, we will discuss 3 of those professionalism skills has been highlighted by the International Financial Reporting Standard and the International Council of Auditing and Accountants. What the new skills and licensing and drivers, which is lead you to have a professionalism or more digitized professionalism in terms of agility, remote working environment and ecosystem, and the forensic issues. Regulation, what the new rules and regulation in UEE federal law, updated law, which has been updated last March, 31st of March 2021, about the new rules and regulation in Go anti-money laundering issues and financial crimes. So this is all about the professional issues, and we need to add all of those issues into your consideration. So the need to increase the interest and knowledge of external auditors in information technology, which has been continuing the bulk of banking operation. Learn about the most important method and stages of anti-money laundering, laws and legislation, sanction issues against anti-money laundering and in the United Arab Emirates, what the new federal law, what the extended of clarity of the detailed procedures for competing anti-money laundering and the ability for the internal system and procedures followed by the detect and usual transaction. Something also about the understand the real challenge and new level of anti-money laundering risk and management faced the auditors or faced by the auditors in light of the current business environment and ecosystem. Implementing the new safer option for auditors' work. How can you wash your hand or wash your cybersecurity risk hand by using the remotely working environment or within using remotely working environment? What the new rules and regulation you have to take into consideration, not to follow the rules, but to wash your hand from any interference of future challenges of the client, transaction, banks, and international high-risk countries. Understand the short-term and long-term implementation of the rules of audits and auditors through which they can save expenses or reduce operation risk by using the agility. Lean and agility auditing approach can give you a lots of idea how can you reduce the auditing procedures and reporting issues, and also you can deliver high quality of conducting services to the customer with a lower operating risk and cost. The most important training objectives here, understanding the real challenge and the new level of anti-money laundering risk management, implementing the new anti-money laundering compliance for the auditors. We actually talking about the compliance once we talk about the regulatory environment, not commitment, because otherwise, if you are not compete or make a complement or compliance issues regarding to the governmental rules and regulation against anti-money laundering and any financial crimes, you have to pay a fines, which is reached up to 5 million dirhams recently, as or based on the latest update of 31st of March 2021. Understand the effect of the remote work environment and audit work, which can help financial firms to communicate effectively with the required speed and efficiency and the compliance with the new rules and regulation. How can we revisit the risk management and the risk profile? How can we rearrange our definition of the new risk in terms of increasing a massive level of high risk in security and cybersecurity information shared remotely? Understanding the financial fraud and anti-money laundering rules and regulation, as we can say that this is something regarding to the regulatory environment and ecosystem. Professionalism scenario is about digitization and digital transformation. We will talk about the digital twins. Once you work remotely, you will not able to visit physically the inventory count committee and to take observation and to collect or gather lots of financial and non-financial evidence. And give online report or remote reporting or reporting issues. So you have to use a new technology has been assigned and entitled by the Ministry of Artificial Intelligence in the UAE, Dubai Emirates, which is highlighted the important role of digital twins in audit remotely working environment. Remote audit office. how can we design the new remote working office, which is mainly about the smart audit office. How can we work in terms of the agility? How can we know our customer effectively and appropriately to avoid any thing regarding to the customer due diligence issues, and the searching for the root cause of suspicious transaction has been made, and how can we report any communication with the Ministry of Economy regarding to the suspicious transaction, which has been faced by recently faced by lots of auditors, and how can we wash our hand not only for COVID-19 virus but also for cybersecurity viruses, which could open the gate for the new money laundering scenarios in the future time. Standardization, the International Financial Reporting Standard in focus, new consideration for COVID-19 and the impact of post-COVID-19 in the financial statement, and how can we highlight any deviation or variance between the real financial transaction and the standardization. The new audit and the challenges of a value-added tax. How can the value-added tax affected or face a lot of challenges in order to create a new anti-money laundering scenarios through using the value-added tax as well, which is, I name it personally as a value-added laundry as well. How can we use the value-added law in order to make a lot of tax evasion? This tax evasion has been created a new illegal money, and how can we wash it to replace it and make a layering and then integrate this money in the economy through illegal channels. The analysis and the study of the new financial war cases in the United Arab Emirates, and also audit techniques in reporting and uncertainty environment issues. So this is all about the professionalism and the standardization, and also the legal side, which is the new responsibility for auditing work. Is that a new life for auditors in post-COVID-19 or not? So how can we recharge the auditing engine and the flow auditing engine for more distant in the future journey to avoid elimination of the services? So we have to be updated about the new digital fraud financial crime challenges, and what is the digital anti-money laundering scenario, what is the digital forensic role, and how can we collect digital evidence in order to prove that we have a great digital reporting has been highlighted, and then we can report auditing services with a higher level of quality. Digital unethical behavior, which is the new digital KPIs for auditing services. How can we deliver the internal auditing services with a high quality during the digitalization and remotely working ecosystem? So we have a lot of issues regarding to the stability of professional skepticism. How can we change from the old or traditional role of professional skepticism to be more forensic skepticism? Evidence and after reporting period of time, accounting for credit losses, measuring the downturn in long-term assets, provision and useless or useless contracts, which is something regarding to the inventory count through remotely working environment, amendment to non-lease contracts, initial financial statement, and secondly, important modern consideration when applying international standard in auditing office. There is some changes that have been made and revised. Also regarding the third parallel, which is mainly about third dimension, mainly about the role of audit office in the modern development. So we'll talk about the what do we mean by agile auditing office, remotely auditing office, and then how can we enhance forensic questions. How can you ask a forensic question? Start with W. Why, when, where, how, and all of those questions should be asked before carrying out a new contract or conducting a new client engagement, in order to know the customer very well, because there's a lot of red flags regarding to the anti-money laundering issues and the client parts and source of funds, which is very important to be highlighted there. This is our old scenario, and how can we run all those sessions? But it's mainly about your new role of as an external auditors, and sake of anti-money laundering and or the track of anti-money laundering. How can we wash our hand, not only from post-COVID-19 as a person, but also because of the anti-money laundering or anti-money laundering crimes as an auditor, not only a person. So you have a new responsibility in your shoulder in this uncertainty environment. So it's not an easy job in order to deliver high quality with low risk services. This is our own scenario. I need to have your opinion regarding to that. What do you think of it? And then I need to know about yourself. Why you are here? I know that you have to take or to renew your license, but what is the new question that you need to answer? Why you are here? You have something to be asked. You have something need to be answered. You have a problem, and you are here to find an answer. If we could deliver this answer, that would be brilliant for me. I need to know about your background, yourself, present yourself, and then give me a question that you need to find an answer in this unexpected time. So I will start our session. Hello, Mr. Alfred. I can't hear you.
Hi, Professor. It's a pleasure to be with you.
I'm very happy.
As usual. Really appreciate your input and candid insight on these terrible times of COVID-19. And it is, as you rightly said, is a challenge for all of us. Being in the profession for 45 years, regional management of Deloitte and Touche in the Middle East and Europe. So I welcome all my colleagues who are attending this course or seminar, and I hope for everybody to enjoy it. Sit back, ask the professor the questions you need to do.
Yes, please.
It's a pleasure to be with all of you, ladies and gentlemen. If there are any ladies around, Professor Tariq.
Thank you, Mr. Alfred.
Thank you very much.
I'm very happy to see you again, and hopefully you could enjoy our meeting. I'm sure that you have a lot of experience now in the second year in post-COVID-19. This is a new fluctuation, as we said in the first time. Fluctuation, the recent issues, the new version of COVID-19, which is in India, and a lot of challenges have been made. Thank you, Mr. Alfred. Anyone could please represent him or herself? Mr. Faisal Jassim. Mr. Faisal.
Yes. Good afternoon, everyone.
Hi, Mr. Faisal. Can you present yourself, please? And what are the main question that you need to find an answer for it?
My name is Faisal Jassim. I'm currently working at Sharjah Islamic Bank as a head of business finance. The main question is the topic of the training course, which is how would we be able as an external auditor to help in the role of anti-money laundering,
especially in banking services, because there's a lots of spot has been highlighted for the private and public banks.
Yes.
Yes. Right. Okay. And you can share with us any ideas and cases that you have already faced in your professional working life in anti-money laundering during our discussion. That would be helpful for all of us to enhance our workshop. Thank you.
Sure, thank you.
Mr. Mohammed Mubin. Mr. Ala.
Sorry, thank you, Tariq. No questions
please.
from my side. Thank you. I was on mute.
Thank you. Mr. Mohammed, Mr. Ala Ali Al-Ali. Mr. Sajid, can you present yourself, please? Mr. Sajid? Mr. Mohammed Shihab. Mr. Abdul Mannan. Mr. Girad Rahman. Yes, please. Mr. Mohammed Mubin. Yes. Can you present?
I was just going to suggest, Professor Tariq, maybe people are on mute because you're taking their names and I can see that there's no response. Maybe people are on mute.
Okay. Can you present yourself, please, Mr. Mohammed? Which company are you working with? And present yourself. What's the main question that you need to search for? I need to know exactly what is the main topic.
Yeah, sure. Thank you. So Tariq, my name, as you know, is Mohammed Mubin Khan. I'm a partner with Ernst & Young in the Middle East, based out of Abu Dhabi. I've been in the profession for about 25 years, with, of course, the core DNA being audit. The sector of specialism for me is energy. So I'm more specialized into oil and gas and power and utility type of clients. That's what I've been doing for many years in Abu Dhabi, and before that in the UK, where I was practicing as.
Yes. Do you have any topic that you need to discuss? Recently, there is something regarding to the cryptocurrency and how the cryptocurrency is related to the oil and gas industry as well, because we spent some issues and some foil in order to produce more Bitcoins. So we will discuss something regarding to that. Do you have any question regarding to that? Because I prepared something regarding to the oil and gas industry in their relation with Bitcoin.
Yes, so cryptocurrencies have not really featured much into the energy sector, but I think one particular area which is seeing growing momentum in the Middle East and North Africa region around the oil and gas space is where the national oil companies are getting into commodity trading. As we know, in the past, oil used to be traded on spot, but more recently, ADNOC has registered their own benchmark, which is Morban. There's a trading platform now at the ADGM. So I think in terms of key risks, new key risks that will emerge from the national oil companies getting into the trading space will be something quite relevant to talk about at some stage, if not today.
Okay.
Already Oman is on the exchange for a long period of time.
Yes. Mr. Rahman, please. Thank you, Mr. Mohammed, for your contribution. We will discuss something regarding to the oil and gas industry as well in ADNOC and ADCO, and how can they use the digital auditing issues in asset count and collect lots of digital evidence regarding to that. Thank you so much indeed, Mr. Rahman, please.
Thank you very much, and it's nice to be here and to listen to everybody as well. So I work for a firm called BDO, and yes, I'm here to listen and learn. I don't have significant questions to ask at the moment, but you know, I am interested in where the profession may be in the Middle East, say in 5 or 10 years from now. So in terms of talent development and regulation, and it's maturing. So I am interested in how that will be.
Yeah, that's really a good question, because lots of around 1 to 2% only for the artificial intelligence and machine learning issues has been added to the auditing service and professionalism issues. However, they all over the world is suffering from lacking of those skillful people who are working in this special field, and they have a relation or a pace of auditing and financial services. So it's something, need to be discussing this issue, especially in the forensic skepticism as a new role for auditing service and responsibility. Thank you, Mr. Rahman, for that. And,
thank you very much.
Thank you. And we will start our session now by talking about the anti-money laundering. How can we add issues? How can we know the customer? Knowing the customer has the 3 main red flags and wake-up call. How can you know the customer? Customer due diligence, and this is something very important for the auditing service, especially once the Minister of Economy announced that there is a fine of 50,000 dirhams up to 5 million dirhams has been doubled recently, and you have already signed it and register your name in this law to be a part of those people who can report any transaction or suspicious transaction regarding to the customer. So you have to know exactly the customer, engage with the customer, and how can you wash your hand from any bad transaction, even you know exactly your customer and you have a good relationship in the past time. So it's very important to highlight back again to the Deloitte and PwC and also the KPMG expectation. We present this picture in 2020, and we found that the accepted scenario for the spreading the virus and the response for the economic side, we found that there is a fluctuation, opening the gate for traveling around the world and increasing the restriction for mobility and the movement around the world, traveling around the world. And we found that this fluctuation will take time and also will take a slow growth in the GDP. So this scenario has been actually achieved in pre-COVID-19. In the 1st of February 2020, there's an announcement for spreading or transforming the epidemic to be a pandemic. The epidemic is just only in Wuhan as a geographical area inside one country called China, and then spreading all over the world as the quality of transportation and communication around the globe spread effectively all over the world, and that convert the epidemic to be a pandemic of a new type of financial crisis. During the epidemic of COVID-19, in 14th of June has been reduced by reducing the amount of infected people, and then started back again in UK, Brazil, and then we can contain the virus by issuing the new vaccination, and then 3 main vaccination has been accepted worldwide, and that enhance the economic side and new expectation for better and going back to the previous norm. However, in India, there is another version has been spread for COVID-19, and another version as well has been highlighted, alpha, beta, gamma virus of COVID-19. And recently in India, that was in 14th of May 2021. And that will reflect this scenario, which has been presented in March 2020 during the pandemic. And this is the future scenario, will take a longer time. So we are now facing new norm or new normality for the job. And that will reflect that the auditor's assessment of the company's internal control. We have to revisit most of the time the risk assessment and proposed response to the identified risk. Consider the impact of the planned audit approach. You have to revisit also your plan approach for the future issues. So your plan approach is very important to highlight. How can you collect the data? What's your own reimagination approach for your own work? How can you run your office through online, remotely issues? How can you be more agile for the future time? How can you be more lean to reduce the risk and operating cost? How can you be lean and agile, which is legile approach? You have to choose your own approach and imagine the world in front of you. How can you deal with this uncertainty through your own approach? You have to move from the red ocean strategy to the blue ocean. Create your blue ocean strategy by yourself through creating your own approach of running your own job. Because this is the only job that you have. I guess that. So you have to choose the approach, the philosophy, the software that you run your business with. Consider the impact of auditing report. What the future expectation? How can you predict and proact to this future? The approach will give you the proactivity and get rid of reactivity issues. Don't wait till the risk happened and then think for the solution, but prepare for the future risk and the possible solution, and face the risk where you can prepare your own approach and expect your own risk as well. Then you have the power to create the predictivity. You predict everything. You predict to what extent this customer will be suspicious person in the future or effective person to the future to run our contract. Because at the end of the day, this is your responsibility, and you will not be away from questioning any issues from legal authority against your job. You have to deliver your job with a high quality and more safer, to be more safer as well. So revisit the risk, consider the impact, what is the approach, and then consider the impact of the auditing report. So during going back again to this approach, the pre-COVID-19, you have to solve the problem, then start to reform, resilient, back again to the work, return to the work, and then in reimagination, the new approach. After that, you have to create your new reform of the future issues. So without imagination, there is a lots of company has been skipped out or leave the market for lots of rivals. So you have to fight by your new approach, your imagination, and reform. We'll discuss it later as well. So as a result of COVID-19, the auditor may be required to determine the planning materiality with different benchmarking and their choice. So this is very important to have reimagination approach. And what is the new risk for materiality, financial statements, and make sure you have to study very well the liquidity, the issues regarding to the cash flow, the future expectation about the customer, to what extent this is going concern issues and problems in the future time. Even you know the customer very well, but this period of time create new feature for existing customer. determine the separate lower materiality level or levels for particular classes of transaction, account balance of disclosure, revise the materiality. Once you revise the risk, you have to revise the materiality as well. So you have to revisit your risk. Why? We have to revisit our risk or the future risk related to the future issues. We have to predict and then protect our issues through predicting the future. So proact, then protect, and then proact. So once you change the level of high risk services, the materiality will also change. Evidence. Collecting evidence, one of the most important parts we have to highlight. The world, or would COVID-19 impact the auditor's responsibility of obtaining more efficient, more high quality and appropriate evidence? So in the impact of COVID-19, the auditor's ability to gain this sufficiency and appropriateness will be affected. Why? Because there is a lots of issues affect this appropriateness. The auditors may face some problems, so you have to reimagine your approach to get high quality of auditing evidence through facing a lot of challenges, which is limited availability of or access to companies' personnel, delays, and you have to revisit the approach again, revisit the risk, revisit the future events, and try to recall all those future events in the present time to see to what extent there is subsequent event may affect your report in the future time. So delaying of the management response to your requirements, how can you have an alternative approach or reimagine? The reimagination power should be in a higher level and to create your own scenario of not delaying the approach. You start your auditing procedures not to stop it, but to continue. There is a continuous monitoring approach through reimagination. Challenges in the communication with those charged with the governance. Challenges in access to communicate with the customers and other customer due diligence issues. Defining the financial crimes, crimes that have money or economic advantages as well, non-violence action, and the ACFCS does not include profit motivated crime, but nearly all financial crimes now became more financial. All type of crimes all over the world, as a war crime, as a behavior, have the financial anticipation issue when they process the control to the criminal procedures. Financial crimes spectrum, which is the money laundering, fraud, corruption, tax evasion, terrorist financing, assets recovery, sanction, compliance enforcement. The triangulation of this kind of behavior. Any question? Okay. This behavior containing a lots of approaches, which is the one approach is the we have to have an opportunities, and the top of 3 main letter, which is mainly about the create the opportunities. We can see the vision clearly, and there is an opportunity to achieve abnormal personal returns through making some pressure to the lower level and the bottom level of these pyramids. And then we have to find a legal approach or shape, which is create the rationalization for this scenario. So it's mainly about 3 main dimensions, which is number 1, the opportunities, and anyone with the three letter job, CEO, CFO, COC, all of those 3 letters can see the vision. And the creation of this opportunities started with this level opportunities to achieve abnormal and personal benefit through having a scenario. Then they create to have a pressure and financial stress scenario for the lower level, and then create a shape of rationalization to create a complete crime in their own perspective. There are some drivers for this financial crime. Tax evasion, one of the most important and recent scenario of anti-money laundering, to create the tax evasion money and create a new scenario for anti-money laundering or money laundering. Absence of legislation, increase in profit to make black money and black market, and whitening the money through anti-money laundering, limited risk of exposure. Tax evasion, they trade evader money laundering so that they can lay about the where money and assets sources comes from, and then in order to evade the tax, there is a lot of mainly three approach in order to create a money laundering issues in this particular time. So we have a case regarding to the evasion of tax and create this money which is has been evaded from the tax in order to be one of the layering and integrating a new legal money in a clean economy to whiten all of those money in order to create a money laundering new approach. And this type of crimes create two main criminal issues: tax evasion, and skip the first stage, which is placement, and start directly the second stage, which is the layering after evading the money, and then integrating the money in the banks and any other financial instrument or financial institution. Increase the profit. This illegal profit, abnormal and personal beneficial issues, when people have incentive for more profit in any particular area, such as production or and trading drugs, arms, illegal money, and broker trade, they start taking risk in order to earn high profit. High risk could consider the high profit. The availability of multiple opportunities of personal enrichment, which without the risk of being exposed to another cause and root cause of anti-money laundering or money laundering issues. And this money laundering invest their fund in activities that are not a good indication for a good economic factor of production, which give a false and fake indicators for the investment issues, and that will lead at the end of the day to reduce or diminish the economic resources, which is having a loss of scarcity, and that will make the country investment in the country or foreign investment, direct investment in the country with a higher risk. So they will ask for more discount rate to represent the risk in investing in this issues. At the end of the day, we can say that investing in high risk country will have a lot of a problem afterward, because this money coming from high risk map or geographical map in the whole of the world, then it will be questionable to invest this type of money, even it's a clean money, in other stable economy like UAE. Money laundering facilities, corruption and crimes. Money laundering reduce the criminals' cost of crime, thereby increasing the level of crime. Lax anti-money laundering policies encourage the criminal activities and corruption issues. Increase the criminal activities, which is the traffic keeper and smuggler, and also the criminal to expand their operation. This drives up the cost of government due to the need to increase law enforcement in order to highlight what is the benefit and the beneficial issues which affect the money laundering issues. The definition in the criminology science, which is the action or conduct designed to conceal source, movement, control, the ownership of or the source of this money illegally driven. So the most important issue of this crime, the criminal or the money launderer start to camouflage or cover the source of this money in order to find the legal challenges and the legal channels to find a new money. Even they pay more to wash this money. And this is the money laundering issue, the source of this money laundering, which started basically in laundering industry. That's why it's not something regarding to washing the money, but it's something regarding to the source of the first industry has been witnessed and faced all of those financial crimes. The movement of money driven through the legitimate means, but which is intended to or designed to future a crime. So there is the financial money laundering crime is two parts of crimes. The washing money, which is the whitening the money to conceal or to reveal the source information about this money, the source of this money information, and create a new identity or legal approach and pathway to find a new way to legal economy. This is one crime, and the other crime using this money in the banks. Once we put this money as a washed money, as a clean money and legal money in the banks, and suddenly the launderer will withdraw all of this money at the same time. That will affect the economy through the banking industry. And then, as we said, a good or a bad indication for the investing approach, and that will raise up the high risk of these criminal issues. Common element of all financial crimes. So the more financial money laundering issues happen in one country will give a bad reputation, which is considered as a bad reputation or a reputation risk. The stages he started with the most dangerous placement stage. This is the most dangerous. Once we exceeded or succeeded this stage, it's very easy to carry out the second and the third stage. The placement in the first stage, then layering or camouflaging, integration. This is the final and very easy approach. So once the money launderer, as a fraud setter, they start the first step by infusion of criminal procedures into traditional and non-traditional financial instruments in all institutions. Typically, most vulnerable to detect at this point, moving assets away from their own source. The source of money should be revealed, and that will be more successful issues. You could be one of those people who help criminal to make this placement by accepting receiving money in behalf of someone else. So the money has been allocated in this country through your channel. So make sure that everything is going in order, and you have to ask lots of questions as a banker, as an auditor, and as an accountant, why you want to give me this money or to have this money inside the countries. So structured deposit, changing currency into another financial instrument, using cryptocurrencies or digital assets in order to find a place, using gaming industry, casino industry, using non-banking institution as well, and complicity of banks, brokers, and other intermediaries institutions. It's very important for this institution. That's why in the Ministry of Economy, they highlighted the role and responsibility of the intermediaries for main industries agent, property agents, real estate, banking, and auditors who are concealing, making some exchange, and give opinion regarding to the money laundering. That's why we highlighted KYC, knowing your customer very well to avoid the first stage. Once you report any suspicious transaction of the 36 transaction has been highlighted by the Ministry of Economy, you make a compliance regarding to this money laundering. And I will show you how can you do that now. If you do not have, but I'm sure that you have it. Placement, layering, separate criminal proceeds from the source through layering of transaction, make 1, 2, 3, 5, 10 transactions to avoid the illegality of the source of fund. Once we succeeded in this stage, as a first stage, it's very easy to highlight the other things because we have the money and we have the right to put it and remove it and put it in another ways. More layering, more difficult. It's to track the fund to preparators through wire transaction and wire transaction, assets movement, purchasing multiple financial instruments, financial assets, financial or non-financial assets, digital assets. That will help in layering. Once we succeed in layering, it's very easy to integrate the money in the economy, and then there is no question to be asked regarding to the where you get this money from, because we have lots of layering. You can ask, and you will find it's very clean. But I have already succeeded in the system of the anti-money laundering. The money laundering issues succeeded, and the anti-money laundering system is failed to track the source of this money. And this integration, it is a part of it, but make sure it's very difficult to track. And then we have to have a detection, investigation through forensic audit or forensic judgment issues. And that would be even more harder and will take a longer time in order to detect where this money comes from. That's why the first stage is very important stage, and it's very easy to be succeeded. That's why we have to make a highlight regarding to the role of auditors and the responsibility of auditors as customer due diligence, and to have to report any suspicious transaction confidentially and directly to Go AML website in the Ministry of Economy, as long as you have any doubt of this issue. The programs for compliance of anti-money laundering, customer due diligence measures, including ongoing due diligence, computer profiling and risk assessment, visiting the risk assessment scenarios, and automated transaction monitoring system, customer screening, investigation in the third and the second stage of anti-money laundering approach of suspicious or atypical customer transaction and behavior. Enhanced due diligence procedures for high-risk customer coming from high-risk countries and high-risk industry. So we have three main issues now. With high-risk countries, this is the first due diligence issues and suspicious issues. So this money coming from ABC country, which is that we have a geographical map for high-risk countries. I will show it to you in this workshop. And also coming from high-risk customer, working in a high-risk company or high-risk industry. So this is four main transaction or four main behaviors we need to make a suspicious issues regarding to that. Also, you have to have a file or a folder called anti-money laundering, and another folder called tax evasion, because the taxation authority consider as a monitor part nowadays in measuring high quality the auditing services. So creating a folder for anti-money laundering crimes and any financial crimes, and also another folder for tax evasion as a different type of national security transactions against the taxation, the most important revenue for the government. Characteristics and indicators of anti-money laundering, which is the red flags, we'll discuss it. Situations specific depending on the types of organization, customer and scenarios, industries, companies, or partners. Key is to understand the customer behavior, the source of fund, establish normal behavior, and abnormal behavior should be reported. Create customer profile and compare activities, transaction against expectation and peer group as a benchmarking issues. Some characteristics, which is the account activity, inconsistent, removing and depositing a lot of a huge amount and withdrawing in very shorter time, 6, 8, 10 months. Fund transaction from two tax haven, fund transaction to offshore jurisdictions, large cash transaction over short period of time, multiple deposit to account by different parts, multiple transaction on same day with a different geographical area and different receiver. There is a lot of issues regarding to the anti-money laundering, and we will summarize it here in this.
Doctor?
Yes, please. We need to have the break, okay? Oh, there is a question?
Yeah, Doctor, is not a question. If you allow me to add, is the Ministry of Economy plus now the ADGM. Quite a lot of us registered with the ADGM, and it's very, very important for people who are auditing companies who are registered with ADGM, whether it's financial or special vehicle companies or organizations. It's very important that they should have proper money handler and risk assessment before accepting the client. So ADGM is very, very strong and very particular about accepting clients and getting into the list, as you said, and high risk areas, which is. Thank you for giving me the opportunity.
Thank you so much indeed for this value added information to highlight how important all over the world the suspicious transaction in this issues. This is very important part. As well, we have to add the type of industry as well. There are some industries like for example, real estate. This is the highest issues has been recorded type of crimes. 52% of the financial crimes happening in this type of industry. Why? Because there is a lot of intermediaries parts in this, and there's a lot of money has been moved away from that parts. The money laundering methods and drivers and vehicles started with the correspondent account, private banking, securities brokers, insurance, real estate agent, precious metal dealers, casinos, and gaming industry recently. Gaming industry. They achieved that one of the most important players has been deducted recently is the PUBG games achieved more than 1 million in last 3 months for just only small players and gamers for that. Gatekeeper, lawyer, and accountant auditors, and all of those intermediaries and concealing industries issues. The international trade price manipulation regarding to the financial vehicle and the value transfer system, prepaid card, mobile money, digital procurement issues using the unsecure blockchain, black market, and all the exchange like Hiwala and all of those parts are those issues. About the red flags, we will talk about the red flags, about 50 or 44 red flags, adding more red flags regarding to the client. We will discuss this issue after the 25 minutes break from now, and we have just only one break in the 2 half. Could you please give me this time for taking a breath and also have a cup of tea and coffee to make a refreshment, and we will be back again with more issues regarding to the anti-money laundering issues. Thank you so much indeed for your time and your effort, your value-added interview for yourself, and we will carry on our discussion after 25 minutes. We will be back again, especially in 16:35 minutes. 16:14. 4:14. Okay? 4:35. So we'll be back again after 4:55 minutes. Thank you so much indeed. I will be back again in the second half in 25 minutes, 4 o'clock, 35 minutes. We have a break for the pray, and we'll be back again. Thank you so much indeed.
Thank you, Professor.
How are you, everyone? Welcome back again to the second half of this presentation. The red flag about the client, first of all, how to know exactly the client. This is an issue we need to discuss. What we should ask about the client is what's behind the red flags. Who is the client? What the main industry? Where he comes from? And what the big picture? What the sanction list, if he listed or entitled for any other financial crimes in other country with other parties, where the monies come from, and the beneficial owner, who is he or she, why they are doing this transaction in this way, in this time, by using this technology or transaction with this quantity and quality. So we have to ask massive amount of questions regarding to knowing the customer very well. This is the most important part. And the client activity, avoiding personal contact without goodwill, refusing to provide information, one of the most important indicators, data and necessary documentation, provides fake and unclear or incomplete documentation, refuse to respond quickly in the right time by using fake rules and channels, uses an email address which cannot be found internationally or locally on the internet, and also the partner associated with the or known to a person involved in any suspected or terrorist financing activities. Asks repeated question about the procedures for implementing standards and how can they follow the rule, what are the issues. See, actually, we need to know exactly what is the area that this customer is always asking about. So it's an indication for something wrong. They need to have a scenario for that. This is one of the most important issues about the client. So the red flag is something mainly about the pays, about the client, him or herself. Knowing the client carefully, the industry of the client, the business, the company, source of fund, and other parts regarding to the behavioral issue that this client, if he or she is clear from any security issues, but on the other hand, they found any opportunities to play games in order to find any beneficial issues to achieve abnormal personal returns. So it's something regarding to the behavior. So the client himself as a title, as a company, as an industry, as a background, as a history, and then the behavior of this client, the financial or non-financial behaviors, and also something regarding to the intermediary channels and financial instruments, something regarding to the financial products itself, the way they can use the financial product. This is another dimension of the strangulation of anti-money laundering or money laundering scenario. So the money laundering scenario starts with the client. There's around 5 or 6 red flag as a wake-up call. Take care, the auditor, Mr. Auditor, you have facing now some issues regarding to the this financial crime, and also you have to take care of some behaviors, depositing, withdrawals, dealing with some partners coming or receiving deposits from high-risk countries or high-risk industries, high-risk companies. Dealing with the parties, some people have a great history of these issues, and also you have to take care of the software itself they use. Some softwares has a bad reputation in involving some people involved this softwares in anti-money laundering issues or any financial crime, any other financial crimes. Also, the product they produce, so they produce high quality or high suspicious product in history of financial crimes. Then you can see that there is a lots of issues regarding to the client. And number three, the parties or other representatives are located in high-risk countries. And the parties to the transaction are tied for no apparent commercial reason. The link between the parties of a family, employment, institution, or any other nature raises about doubt about the reality. In a short term, the same parties have more than one view of transaction, which is mainly not related and mainly using lacking of financial and commercial explanation of this transaction. The transaction is unusual for proceeding or processing parties, especially if the age of the is below the legal age. The person who are actually directly or directs the operation is not one of the official parties. The real person working as a director or representative is not an appropriate representative. Red flag for transactions, the client of the third parties, and if the funding source is unusual, the customer uses more than one bank account. Some of them is a fake account or fake banks in some of those foreign countries coming from high risk countries. If private spending is financed by the company's business or government, the choice of payment method more suspicious, postponing to a very close time and deposit the amount of money in a very short time. So this is all indication, but there is a reality which the client himself or herself, the behavior, this is something reality, and you have to pay attention for those two dimensions, the behavior of this client and the client himself or herself. The other transaction is an indication which can lead you to any suspicious transaction or activities. Red flag for the mortgage are paid substantially without any reasonable explanation before the first due date. The asset is purchased in cash and quickly used as a guarantee for another things without any legal explanation and any explanation for that. There is a request to change previously agreement payment in the last mile. They change the person or the receiver and the way of sending money. This is an indication. So, and the anti-money laundering behavior as a criminal behavior, we have facts regarding to the client and the behavior, and also we have something regarding to an indication for behavior or intermediaries, but away from the client, him or herself. So you are directly responsible for reporting any suspicious transaction regarding to the client behavior or the client information that has been collected. So you have to be sure about the client information and knowing the client effectively. If you find any financing is provided by a lender without a legal explanation outside the credit institution, this is an indication. It's not a fact, but indication to search for a fact, which is in the first place, it's considered as an evidence. Collateral provided the transaction is currently located in a high-risk industry or country. If there has been significant increase in constitutive contribution to the same company without legal statement. So the financial statement is another indicators for suspicious transaction without an explanation. So we need to search for some evidence to make these indicators more suspicious, to reach to the level of suspicious transaction. But the fact, it's directly reported to the Ministry of Economy. Yeah. There is unrelated or high risk increase for the capital companies from foreign countries. If the company has received a fairly high injunction of capital or money assets in shorter time, with a fake statement or illegal statements, with a high risk industry or company without any relation, will not combine it with any legal or commercial explanation. If there is an excessively high or low price for the securities transferred for any kind of situation showing an access, especially if recently created companies also made a large amount of money without justified areas. Training of lawyers away from the transaction without a legal economy, this is an indication. Need to search for a fact. So education of lawyer who does not have an experience or their experience is not related to the client. So this is an indication of something wrong. We have to search for a fact, and then you have to report the way. So if you report regarding to a fact, which is the client information or some client's behavior or abnormal behavior or suspicious activity and behavior, so this is kind of report you have to design it in another way, which is totally different than reporting an indication. This indication maybe is not related directly to the client that we are dealing with, but there is something wrong. So this indication needs some facts to be reported as well with this indication in order to be highlighted. That's why we report an indication of suspicious report not only for the client or the behavior, but for both of them. So you have to relate all of those transactions or indication to one of those facts, which is the client or the behavior of this client. Maybe illegal behavior could be considered as a money laundering crime or any financial crimes. The client is ready to pay significantly higher wages than usual. This is a behavior. So we have to ask for what is the fact behind that? What is the reason behind that? Why this unexperienced lawyer, or why this time, and why we pay this a huge amount for this person, where we can find it's related to the related business is not normal. Required service was denied by another professional. Illegal operation, suspicious statement of customer, creation of complex ownership structure. This is an indication. It's not a fact, but this is a line we have to follow, or cheating it in order to, or cheating it in order to get a fact or find an explanation. Maybe this explanation could clear or reveal the curtain from any financial scenario. Participation of the client structure with more than one country without legislation or economic causes. Number 30, indication or incorporation and purchase of stock or securities of several companies or legal entities without in a short period of time, without any relation with the company is not working as a holding companies over stocks. So why they have this diversity of securities? This is an indication. So we have to search for an indication. Then we search for a fact. It's totally, at the end of the day, related to the behavior and client or both of them. Property transaction in a row without or with purchase price, unexpected change in the instruction, especially at the last minute. This is a behavior. This is not an indication. This is a behavior. This behavior will ask some forensic question. Is totally different than the question that we need to ask for an indicators. So the indicators is different than the fact, is different than the reality of the KYC. If it is something related to the KYC, knowing the customer, so we are in a critical, very critical situation if we did not report it in a suspicious transaction regarding to the base of this crime. Reasonable business transaction has no legal reason. This is behavior. Complexity increase the transaction. In case where assets are not a valid reason, a power of attorney is thought to manage or disposal, invest an immovable property when there is no link from the investment. This is an indication of something wrong. The case is dealt with very easy and has been dealt very easy and treated very easy and quickly. Request for payment to third parties without proving the cause and the reason, commercial reason behind that. There is no sufficient documents or fake documents has been supported this transaction, which is an indication of something wrong. So that will lead us to this type of indicators. Indicators of financial transaction for banks, for example, in the banks. Several link cash transaction in amount of less than 15,000 euro, which altogether exceeded this amount. If such transactions are not consistent with the client usual business transaction, an example of unusual or usual transaction conducted in several operations in the deposit of the daily receipts more than once a day. Deposit and withdrawal of large amount of money would significantly differ from the client usual transaction. This is an indication. It's not a behavior. It's an indication. It's totally away from the client. Maybe not directly to the client, but this is an indication of something it's wrong. Something wrong has been made by the client or by the behavior of this client. The client as a name, as a company, as an industry, or some behaviors. Purchase or exchange of large amount of traveler check or securities for cash, especially if they are not typically for the client. Depositing a large amount of cash as collateral and a sudden request by the client to repay for a loan. This is a behavior. Deposit a withdrawal of cash an amount just below their threshold prescribed by the law or prevention of money laundering. Transaction in large amount through an account that has been dormant for a large period of time. Large amount deposited into an account and then withdraw it suddenly. several seemingly unrelated person deposit fund into the account of a client, this is an indication. It's not related to the client directly, but an indication of something wrong has been made or created as a behavior of the client. Why we mention that there is indication and client as a base and the behavior of this client? Because those 36 an indication has been highlighted, even here in the Ministry of Economy, has been classified to, those are considered as an indication, not a fact. A fact is directly you report that this client is a suspicious name of anti-money laundering involvement or criminal. This is a fact. And then your report should be reported differently than the indication. How can we say that? How can we do that? For example, this case study here, guidance on preparing and submitting high-quality suspicious activity reports. In this report, they will show you how can you write a good SAR report. If you find an indication or if you find a fact that the client has involved in anti-money laundering suspicious activities. How can we say that? Here, for example, legal framework, suspicious activity reports, completing the SARS form, and structure of SARS narrative. When you write, for example, the SARS, the SAR, filler should provide a summary regarding the movement of the fund. This summary should clearly identify the source of fund, the source of wealth, all accounts number and activities, accounts at other institution, and you have to mention if there is an indication or suspicious activity indication or indicators, when did suspicious activity occurs? We can say that in this case, once we found that there is a more than small amount has been deposited in one day to different users, different bank account, and different banks, we have already suspicious this behavior. This is an indication of something wrong happened or being happened. So you have to mention or to answer the question, when did you observe or witness that there is a suspicious activity has been taken place? Number two, where the suspicious activity occurs, when and where. If you found any an indication of high risk country or industry or company or names or parties, you have to mention that. Why does the SAR, suspicious activity report, filler think that the activity is suspicious? Then you have to, if it's an indication or indicators activity, you have to find the link between this activity or this indicators and the client, or at the customer, or the company, or the industry, or the product that the customer is involved with. As long as you are not dealing with a fact, there is no need to answer this question, which is talking about why does the SAR filler think, which you as an auditor filler think that the activity is suspicious. Then how did suspicious activity occur? This is something you need to highlight. When has been occurred and why does you think it's as suspicious, you have to fill it, because this depends on your own case. This is your own case in writing a good report. Where did the suspicious activity occur? So where, when, how, and why. Those are considered as forensic auditing skills. Forensic auditing suspicious skills. Using your own experience as a professional skepticism and judgment, skepticism, and your sense of forensic. Why, how, when, and where. If there is an indication of those 36 indicators, those are just only indicators, not facts. But if you search for your client and you found your client has recently involved in a party or a partnership with some people who are historically suspicious in or listed in a sanction list, this is a fact. Even he or she as a customer did not have anything regarding to anti-money laundering. If there is a fact that there is some softwares has been used in hackering international accounts, and you found a name of your client is mentioned in this accounting software or international software, there is no behavior, there is no indicators, but this is a fact that my client has been mentioned in this issue. So this is a direct report, should be mentioned or should be reported. There is no need to answer all of those questions available here. Where did suspicious activity happen? Why and how? All of those issues. So there is no need to have all of those in a structure as long as you have a fact. So we can say that in this case, we have to highlight three main dimensions. Number one, which is something regarding to the facts, which is the client itself. And then the behavior. And the indicators. If it's something regarding to the indicators, which is the 36 indicators highlighted by the anti-money laundering alert, you have to report using those forensic questions, which is how, where, when, and how, and why. Because this indicator is not directly related to the client, or the behavior has been witnessed recently from the client. If it's something regarding to the behavior, you have to ask when, you have to mention when and how did you know that, and to what extent it's related to the anti-money laundering. Once it's related to the client, him or herself, you have to report directly that there is something has been involved in this name or in this industry that the client is related to, and the client has some issues or behaviors related to some behaviors which it affected, and then your report should be written in a very professional way. Mention these indicators, take some research and development and study, which is found the link between these indicators and the behavior, and this behavior highlighted that this type of client is involved in the anti-money laundering issues by answering all of those questions. Otherwise, there is some doubt in your own report, and you have already now washed your hand or legal hand from any illegal virus has been made by the client. So you have to search for a fact, which is a client or behavior or an indication. Once the indication has been made and you found it in your evidence, in your auditing work, you have confidentially found the link between this type of indicators and the behavior which is lead, or let me see this indicators, and to what extent this behavior is directly related to the client. Then your report should highlight all of those issues, all of those 42 and 36 transactions. But those 42 transactions containing something regarding to the client himself, answering the client questions. This is the fact. Those questions are a fact. If you found the client has something illegal regarding to the product or the industry or the company or parties, this is a fact. You have to directly mention that this client, I recently found that it's not something regarding or regarding to anti-money laundering. Another experience with one of the participants in anti-money laundering program and certified anti-money laundering auditor. They describe a situation about he is a great name in the UAE, and there is a client ask her to do some work for his company, and suddenly when she asked some question about the client, the picture or the money source and the industry, he asked her to resign. He asked her to break the contract. He wants to get rid of this transaction or this type of engagement contract without any reason. That's happening 4 or 5 years ago. It's been made in more than 5 years ago without any an indication. He suddenly found this type of behavior coming from this client. In this case, you have to report this illegal behavior or not explained or unexplained behavior has been made by the client. Why he asked me to resign? Why he asked me to cancel this contract, or he wants to cancel the contract without any reason. He asked some questions about his background and those issues. So this is a fact. So we have to report. Once I asked this question, I didn't witness any kind of behavior except this type of behavior to resign or to start to end the relationship or end the contract engagement contract. So he should report this type of behavior, and I suspect that this illegal or unexplained behavior could hide something greater than that. Something we need to ask, why this simple question I didn't find an answer or any documentation to justify my answer before we start the job, or we start our contract, or we start the auditing procedures. So this is something is not related to indicators. It's a behavior, so it's a fact. Once it's come to the behavior, which is started from the red flag number 4 till 42 indicators, this is an indicators. So you have to mention all of those 4 questions, which is available in this part. you have to ask when did, where did the suspicious activities occur, and activity report filler. Person who the client ask the auditors, we no longer need your work, and please, we need to end the contract from our side, and this is the amount of fees that you need, and that's it. Once or soon after, we ask about some information. So they expected that this type of auditors will be as easy as they could expect, so they can hide more legal issues. But once we start with asking some questions which affect something could be hidden in the future time, so there is something wrong. We have to report it directly as a fact, not an indicators. Then we have to structure what the structure for reporting suspicious transaction. Introduction, mentioning the reason for filling the SAR and description, the date, and the summary of the indicators. Look at the indicators. The indicators does need more office work, more reporting skills than the facts. The body, all the facts, where the suspicion is being reported, and the conclusion at the end of the reporting issues. You should add some type of financial analysis to prove that there is something wrong happened. There is no relationship or association between the transaction or the type of partners or the type of loans has been mentioned. Then comment on the issues. This is some examples of these transactions. In the banking industry and insurance industry as well. Risk alert, the compliance issues related to suspicious transaction monitoring and reporting in broker dealer. Look at the brokers, the intermediaries, and all of those things should be highlighted as a highly risk financial transaction, highly risk financial industry, and the products as well. Relevant regulation and guidance for that. Suspicious activity reporting issues, one of the most important skills. How can we write a suspicious report carefully and to the point, which is reveal the curtain from the hidden facts, showing that we are compliant, and keep a copy in our suspicious or anti-money laundering profile. There is a guidance for that, and the guidance for characteristics of suspicious indicators. This is more indication for the indicators as well. How can we define the anti-money laundering as a process, unusual financial transaction, unusual financial with high-risk countries, terrorist financing, suspicious of terrorist financing issues, the fulfillment of the notification obligation, suspicious of anti-money laundering, unusual transaction, unusual activities. So we have to differentiate between unusual or suspicious transaction, which is related to the indicators, and unusual activity, which is related to the client and the behavior of the client. Mandatory cash transaction report, and suspicious of knowledge of the need to implement the international financial sanction. Suspicious of terrorist financing issues. We need for this time to ask some questions regarding to the all of those red flags here. some cases if you go to slido.com here in the left-hand side and enter the unique code, which is 076611, 0666 or 06611, and answer this question, your answer will be available in the screen. But I need you to go to slido.com from your mobile phone or any other devices. You will find this question available once you head the or write down the unique code 076611 in slido.com. In your mobile, go to the Google Chrome, write down slido.com. Enter the code 06, okay, 076611. And choose between A, B, C, or D for the right positive answer for that. Only 2 participants. Please, in order to have a significant answer, we need more than 4. Any other participant? Yes, there is a question here. Yes, any question? Okay, if you go to slido.com and enter this unique code 076611 and answer the question, what are the key effects of money laundering in a country? Choose 3. 1, reputation risk, which is risk affecting the whole country as a high risk country or culture, losing control of regulatory policy, being phased into adverse fiscal policy, losing control of monetary policy. Okay. I can found that there is a good load for number C. We have just only 4 participants now. It's 1, 2, and 3. Please, I need more participants to have a significance of the answers. It's 50% for ACD. Number B is losing control of regulatory, being phased into adverse fiscal policy, and number 5, which is losing control of monetary policy. But one of the significant answer is reputation risk. Yes. So the right answer between A, B, C, and D, as you have already mentioned, but that's just only for 4 participants. In order to give more significant answer, please, I need more enhancements or to give a significancy of this answer. A, C, and D, just only one participant. Please, one answer, one more answer could reveal all of those issues. So we have C, D, and A. Which is the most important, being phased into adverse physical policy or losing control of military policy? Which is number 5, is not available in number D. Number 5. So any activities which is entitled as a anti or money laundering in a country could affect in losing control of military policy or being phased into adverse physical policy. Which one is stronger to find the right answer in this question? Number 5 or number 2? Sorry, number 4 or number 3? Do you think number 3 is more significant, or losing control of monetary policy, money laundering? That's number A, 1, 3, and A. 1, reputation risk. Number 3, which is being phased into adverse physical policy. And number 4, which is losing control of military policy. This question has been collected from the anti-money laundering, certified anti-money laundering exam as a part of the CIA certificate, certified internal auditing certification in IMA program. So the model answer here is A, which is number 1, reputation risk, of course, and number 4, which is losing control of military policy, and the revealing the conflicts here is being phased into adverse physical policy. Another activity which is related to 2 of the case studies here. Number 1, if you go to www.menti.com and use the code 21361183, go to menti.com and you will find this case. All you need to do to answer first question and the second question. Go to the Menti and you will find the case in your mobile and go to the code 21361183. Fighting money laundering, terrorist financing, and economic crime. Deposit and movement of funds between bank accounts within or with no business rationale, without any commercial and economic explanation, as one of the indicators of that. You will find that the client is clear. There's nothing about the client, but once we have an indication there is a bad behavior or abnormal, suspicious behavior has been made, so we will direct it to this client and write a report using forensic question: why, when, where, and how, and how questions. So please read this case and tell me what are the red flag identified which might indicate money laundering activity, and what is the risk for not filing any report for the concealing company or financial services company or accountant or auditors. So the main and the high risk could face could be faced by this transaction. How can we do that? Go to www, hit the Google Chrome or Firefox in your mobile application, www.menti.com, and use the code 21361183. You will find the case, and please, we need you to discuss with you what are the red flags could be highlighted. How can you consider there is something as an indicators or something regarding to the facts? This is a fact. And in case you are not filing any kind of report, what is the main risk facing you or us? So read it from your mobile, and if you have any question, if you have any structure answer, so we can discuss it at the moment. Once you finish, off you go. Okay, any answer? What are the first red flag you can find in this transaction? Forget about the number, but what is the main picture? Could you see something which is goes wrong, which is could go wrong through these transactions? What type of doubt you have, which create your red flag in this case?
Okay, maybe I can go first.
Yes, yes, please.
I think if you look at on the facts of the case, you've obviously got a cash withdrawal, point number C of 70,000 euros, right? With no business explanation.
Yes.
That's a flag.
Okay.
And then, like again, the E point below, where you just got 100,000 into a fixed deposit rate, upon which maturity the funds are withdrawn and the account was closed. That's obviously a red flag as well.
Yes.
And it seems another point that I can immediately see that company D is getting a loan from company C, but it's actually being routed via A. So instead of the money going directly from B to D, what's happening is B is giving 2.25, A is passing that to C, and then C is passing it to D. So effectively the relationship between B and D is not captured in B's books.
Okay. So once you mentioned there is no economic or justification or explanation, what do you mean by that? What type of explanation that you need to have? What type of document?
Some sort of a business rationale, right? In terms of what the cash is being used for.
Yes.
Whether it is an invoice, whether it's a petty cash, well, it won't be petty cash, it's 70,000 euros, but some sort of a business rationale in terms of what the funds are being used to settle. And why is it being settled in cash? Because 70,000 euros in cash is a very big amount.
None of the above. There's all red flags, Professor.
All red flags.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Yes. 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 Okay. But Mr.
Alfred.
Sorry.
Alfred.
Yes, Mr. Mohammed highlighted one of the most important parts. It's all of them are red flags, but what type of explanation that he wants to have? What is the relationship between these companies? Maybe there is no relationship because the operation that they need this loan is not related to the main business. So this is unquestionable. Why you have money and then resend it again as a loan, and in a very shorter time you withdraw it back again? We are now talking about the behavior. Something behavioral issues could make an indication there is something wrong happened. So the indicators will reflect some abnormal behavior, which does need to consider as a suspicious transaction or activities. Yeah. So moving the money or the amount of money exceeded because he's a banker, said that this is exceeded the amount of money and move another. You withdraw the money because you need to have an operation, but you use it for another direction to send it to another person. So this is an indicator something wrong happened. So all of them, as Mr. Alfred said, it's red flags. The amount of money, the shorter time, 8 months, only 8 months, less than 1 year, and you withdraw the money again. So you need to use this money as a product for another money laundering scenario. Okay, what else? What do you think about the risk for non-reporting these transactions, this suspicious transaction? What is the risk?
Professor, this is a huge risk. As an ex-senior partner of Deloitte, people like that should immediately be reported to the regulator as one step, and I definitely will not give them a clean opinion.
Very good. So it's something, first of all, regarding to the reputation risk, because some auditors are afraid from losing the customer. They are afraid from not having the customer in the future time. If I suspect any single behavior as a suspicious behavior, so I will work alone, I will lose my market. So at the end of the day, we can say this is a reputation risk. This is a reputation risk, very, very huge risk, as long as you did not.
Absolutely right, Professor.
Yeah.
A huge reputation risk.
Yes. And this could cause you the whole life. So the whole reputation, like for example, what's happened in Saudi Arabia, some auditors there spend around 3 years in the jail. And they go back again to the work, but with the blacklisted one. This is the price for reputation risk. Any question regarding to that? I think we have now 20 minutes to the second lecture. So we have
a very good example here, Professor.
Yes.
Really,
yes.
I appreciate that. Well.
And we have to mention a lot of things regarding to the scenarios for the anti-money laundering. How can we calculate it, and how can we range the risk of the anti-money laundering for the auditing office? So is that a very catastrophic, huge risk, medium risk, low risk, or nothing we have to worry about? We have to mention that there is something wrong happened. So if we have any answer, we did not have any answer to the question of any suspicious, so this is considered as a professional skepticism. But if you, but if you give a faith or a doubt of 1% for any clear case, and you put just only 10%, there's something. So this is issues. We will highlight all of those issues next time tomorrow, inshallah, at the same time, 3 o'clock. Thank you so much indeed for your time and for your question.
Thank you very much, Doctor. That was a very informative, and we're really grateful to you and your very wise and good examples you brought around. Highly appreciated.
Thank you, Mr. Alfred.
Professor Tariq, I would like to echo the comments made by Alfred as well. It's been very helpful and useful, and certainly enjoyed the interactions that we've had with you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Professor. See you tomorrow. Thank you so much.
Inshallah. See you tomorrow, inshallah, at the same time. With more issues, I hope that you bring your make your another device with you, more active with the Wi-Fi. So we have a lot of things to share in this communication workshop. Thank you so much indeed, and see you tomorrow at the same time.
Well done.
Thank you.